service.
Okay, whatever you do, I'm going to move. Guaranteed. Were your neighbors making noise last night? Ours were here at the temple and over at my place. They were infused with the Halloween spirit and a little bit of alcohol, or a lot of alcohol. Oh, thank you. Why, thank you. So, Ram, don't start high. I'm waiting for you. You ready? That's a first. So no sound? So nothing's there. Out of battery. It's out of batteries. Jai Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Hey. Gopajana Balaba Vijanadari Gopajana Balaba Girivanadari Jasoranandana Bhajaranjana Jasoranandana Bhajaranjana Jamunatiravanachari Jamunatiravanachari Jairaro Marava Kunjavihari Gopajana Balaba Girivanadari Jasoranandana Bhajaranjana Jamunatiravanachari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Boom! Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Jaya Marava Kunda Behari Jaya Marava Kunda Behari Jaya Marava Kunda Behari Marava Kunda Behari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padib Jakacharya Sated Shish Minister Divine Grace Abhajaran Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON BBT founder Charya Jagaguru Srila Prabhupada Ki. Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. Nam Charya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem Shikoho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki. Vrindavan Dham Ki. Mathura Dham Ki. Dwarka Dham Ki. Navadip Dham Ki. Jagannathpuri Dham Ki. Jamuna Maya Ki. Ganga Maya Ki. Tulsi Maharani Ki. Bhakti Devi Ki. Sambhita Bhakta Vinda Ki. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Sri Radha Giridhari Ki. Shri Krishna Sankirtana Jaga Ki. Go Premanandi. All glories to the sum of devotees. All glories to the sum of devotees. All glories to the sum of devotees. All glories to the divine lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Krishna Sudamo Bhagate Dhammaganadi Saha Kalanasa Dashamisha Parano Konado Data Narayana Namaskritchat Naram Chaivam Narotama Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayat. The Bhagavatam is as brilliant as the sun. It is arisen just after the departure of the Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied with knowledge, religion, etc. persons who have lost their vision through the dense darkness of the age of Kali shall get light out of this Purana. Before beginning our study of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should first offer respects to the personality of God and Narayan, the Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, the goddess of learning with the Saraswati, the author Srila Vyasadeva, and my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada. So we are on. Hey, can you get me a little water? Do we know what the? Is this fresh water? Or is it? Yeah, but the question was, do we know how old this water is?
We don't.
All right. Well, in that case, let's swap it out. Thank you, Prabhu. So we are on the 7th canto. Hang on a minute. I got to remember which device we've got. And we are on the 14th chapter?
Yes.
I think so. And we are on, what's on the board? 15, which has no purport. But that's okay. Devan Rishin Nre Bhutani Pitrin Atmanam Anvaham Sva Frityagata Vitena Yajeta Purusham Pritak Devan Rishin Bhutani Pitrinatmanam Anvaham Svavrityagata Vite. Hey Krishna. Svavrita Hare Krishna. Svavrityagata Vitena Yajeta Purusham Pratak. We're waiting for the water. Devan Rishin Bhutani Pitrinatmanam Anvaham Savrityagata Vitena Yajeta Purusham Pratak Devan Rishin Bhutani. Hang on a minute. Thanks, Prabhu. Pitrin Atmanam Anvaham Svrityagata Vitena Yajeta Purusham Pratak Devan Vishenrutani Pitrinatmanam Anvaham Svavitagata Vitena Yajeta Purusham Pratak Devan Vishenrutani Pitrinatmanam Anvaham Savrityagata Vitena Yajeta Purusham Pratak. Now all at once now. Devan Rishin Bhutani Pitrinatmanam Anvaham Savrityagata Vitena Yajeta Purusham Pratak. Vaishnavis Devan Rishin Bhutani Pitrinatmanam Anvaham Svavrityagata Vitena Yajeta Purusham Pratak. Devan Rishendra Bhutani Pitrin Atmanam Anvaham Svavityagata Vitena Yajeta Purusham Pratak. We're going to skip the word for word because we're actually going to talk about the next verse. So the verse, translation, every day one should worship the Supreme Being who is situated in everyone's heart. And on this basis, one should separately worship the demigods, saintly persons, ordinary human beings, and living entities, one's forefathers, and oneself. In this way, one is able to worship the Supreme Being in the core of everyone's heart. So the verse for today, I'll just do the I'll do the translation. When one is enriched with wealth and knowledge, which are under his full control, and by means of which he can perform jaga, or please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one must perform sacrifices, offering oblations to the fire according to the directions of the Shastra. In this way, one should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'll say, you say. When one is enriched with wealth and knowledge, which are under his full control, and by means of which he can perform yajna, or please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one must perform sacrifices, offering oblations to the fire, according to the directions of Shastra. In this way, one should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada's purport. If a grihastha or a householder is sufficiently educated in Vedic knowledge and has become sufficiently rich to offer worship to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he must perform yajnas as directed by the authorized scriptures. In Bhagavad Gita 3.9 clearly says, Yagyartat karmano nyatra lokayam karma bandhana. Everyone must be engaged in his occupational duties, but the result of these duties should be offered for sacrifice to satisfy the Supreme Lord. If one is fortunate enough to possess transcendental knowledge as well as the money with which to perform sacrifices, one must do it according to the directions given in the Shastra. It says in Srimad Bhagavatam 12.3.52, Kriteya dhyayato vishnum tretayam yajato makahai Dvarpare parichayayam kalautadari kirtanat. The entire Vedic civilization aims at satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This was possible in Satya Yuga by meditation on the Supreme Lord within the core of one's heart, and in Treta Yuga by performance of costly yagas. The same goal could be achieved in Dwapara Yuga by worship of the Lord in the temple, and in the age of Kali, one can achieve the same goal by performing Sankirtana Yaga. Therefore, one who has education and wealth must use them to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead by helping the Sankirtan movement that has already begun, the Hare Krishna movement or Krishna consciousness movement. All educated and wealthy persons must join this movement, since money and education are meant for service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If money and education are not engaged in the service of the Lord, these valuable assets must be engaged in the service of Maya. The education of so-called scientists, philosophers, and poets is now engaged in the service of Maya, and the wealth of the rich is also engaged in Maya's service. The service of Maya, however, creates a chaotic condition in the world. Therefore, the wealthy men and the educated men should sacrifice their knowledge and opulence by dedicating them for the satisfaction of the Lord. And joining this Sankirtan movement, Yagai Sankirtana Prayer Yajanti Hi Sumedasa. Bhagavatam 11:5-52. Om Gana Tamarantasya Gana Gana Salakaya Chakshushur Militangina Tazarishi Gurave Namaha. So just as a sidelight, it says in the first canto, or the second canto actually, of the Bhagavatam, that the head that is not bowed down, big turban, you see in India, in the old days, the Maharajas had nice turbans, so many turban pieces, but it's a big, big turban, but if it's not bowed down to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it's just a death knell. Because we are trying to cross over the ocean of birth and death. And if I have a big weight on my head, how well can I swim? There's a famous story that Lady Astor, on the Titanic, which was declared as the unsinkable, and the material nature was more than willing to accept the challenge and sunk it on its maiden voyage. And they were so arrogant they didn't have enough life rafts. So women and children first, right? And Lady Astor had all of her diamonds on. Yeah, big diamond brooches, big diamond necklace. And when she was getting from off the rescue, off the sinking ship into a lifeboat, she sank like a stone. Bye-bye, Lady Astor. So all your big jewels, you try to cross the ocean, but you don't use them in Krishna's service. It's just a death knell. So also it's talking about how if you have money and you have influence, you should use it in the service of Krishna. So I was in Prabhupada's room one time in Detroit, and this person was trying to get Prabhupada to talk about Rasa Katha. That Krishna and the gopis, and, Prabhupada said, first deserve, then desire. These things require, one has to be completely free from any attachment of, sex, boyfriend, girl. You can't understand Krishna Lila. So this man but still he was trying to prod Prabhupada. And he said, just tell us about Krishna's incarnation. And Prabhupada slammed his hand on the desk and said, this ISKCON movement is another incarnation of Krishna. And he's come again to save the world. So they used to say that democracy is the last great hope of mankind or humankind. But democracy, Prabhupada called it demon crazy. They're about to have a democratic festival, isn't it? I think it's the 5th of November. And the takeaway from the populace is they don't like either one of them, the choices. Most people say, well, they're bum choices. I'll hold my nose and vote for one or the other, And that's those who vote. The majority of people don't vote in America. They're discouraged. And Prabhupada points out, so democracy, the last great hope, but it's not the last great hope. The last great hope is the Hare Krishna movement, which is spread all over the world. Doesn't matter whether there was a wedding in Italy, at our temple in Italy recently. Madhu Sevata, who is the GBC, the governing body commissioner for Italy, Mediterranean countries, was telling me that there's still a few old dinosaurs left over from the Italian Civil War. The communists fought with the royalists, capitalist royalists, and it was going on for years, and there was a vicious, it's like Spanish Civil War, it's vicious, bloody thing. So there was a wedding, and it's a beautiful temple, and beautiful bride, handsome groom. So they came together, the devotees at the wedding, and the grandfathers were there from each side. And it turns out one of them, in the Italians, they tend to fight, the mafia and all that stuff. So on one side, on the groom's side, the grandfather, the patriarch of the family, was one of the old warriors from the communist side. And he had his whole clan with him. And then you had the patriarch on the bride's side, was one of the old royalists. And they, the tensions are still brewing. So they met, each with their clan, and they met, and they thought, what's going to happen? How's this going to go down? And the old men saw the beautiful devotee bride and the handsome devotee groom and blissful kirtan, and they looked at each other, and then they embraced. So it happens in Krishna consciousness. We find these things. The purchasers of the Detroit temple by Prabhupada's arrangement, if you know the history of Detroit and the General Motors, Motor City, there were the unions fighting with the owners. And they used to hire criminals to beat up the union strikers, and it was a horrible fighting that fought for years. So the head of the unions, the United Auto Workers, was a man named Walter Reuther. He was actually a noble man. So Walter Reuther was the head of the United Auto Workers, and Ford Motor Company was the automotive, the General Motors, Ford Motors, like that. So you had Fords and you had the Reuthers, and they had been fighting hammer and tong for years. Ambarish, Alfred Ford, was the great-grandson, or great-grandson, I think great-grandson of Henry Ford, Ambarish. And Lekha Shravanti Mataji was the daughter of Walter Reuther. And together they each combined some of their inheritance, and they purchased the Detroit temple. And the top paper of record of Detroit, the Detroit Free Press, said labor and management agree on Krishna. It was on the front of the page, front page of the newspaper. So Prabhupada liked that very much. So there it is. They can have their... Prabhupada said democracy means demon crazy. And, someone... I was listening to a tape the other day, and someone was lamenting, about we don't get good choices, and we've got these bad leaders, and, Prabhupada said, you got bad leaders because you're bad. He didn't let the man off the hook at all. He said, you're just, what is it? A chicken in every pot, a good 5-cent cigar. What is a chicken in every pot, 2 cars in every garage, and a chicken in every pot. A good 5-cent cigar. They just vote their economy. How to feed their belly, how to, whoever. So how will, unless I'll give you another example because it underscores the importance of book distribution and what we do and go out every day. If the people are foolish, what kind of leader are they going to elect? Give the others a chance. If the people are a fool, Brinda, who are they going to elect? They're going to elect another fool. So therefore, if we want to get good leaders, what do we have to do? What did you say? Okay, but how do they become not fools? They have to be educated, right? Just like you guys are going to school with the hope that you'll stop being foolish. No, I'm just joking. So, no, you educate people. Everybody's a fool. Jammati Jayanti Sudra. No, is that right? Yeah. In Kali Yuga, everyone is born foolish. And they're educated. I mean, I had to go to school. Everybody's got to go to school. Otherwise, you stay foolish. So, therefore, if we want the people to stop being foolish, what do we have to do? Help me out. You have to educate them. I'll give an example. Thomas Jefferson, he was the third president. After George Washington, a little American history, Thomas Jefferson ran for president. And he lost. He lost to John Adams. So what did he do? He bought, because 4 years or however long the guy was in, he bought a bunch of printing presses. Yeah, it's history. Bought a bunch of printing presses, bunch of newspapers. And in the next election, all the newspapers ran editorials about how great Thomas Jefferson was. He was the same man. He was the same fool in the beginning and fool in the end. But all the people read, oh, Thomas Jefferson is great. So guess who won the next election, third election, who won by a landslide? Thomas Jefferson. Because the people were educated, so-called educated. What is it? The best defense against tyranny is a well-educated public. That's from Thomas Jefferson. So if we want to protect people against the tyranny of Maya, of illusion, what do we have to do? Educate them. And how do we educate them? By two means, actually by so many means. This is Mahaprabhu's strategy. First off, we educate them by distribution of transcendental knowledge. They read our books. If you're traveling and you meet a devotee for the first time, someone you've never met, ask them how they became a devotee. You'll get a great story, guaranteed. You ask them, what internal transformations transpired that brought you from where you were to a devotee? And you'll get a great story, guaranteed. And generally speaking, at least my experience, my unofficial polling, it's about 75% get a book first. Got a book from a devotee and read it. Wow. There was a man at one of our, I don't want to embarrass the devotee by mentioning, anyway, there was a man who checked in to an apartment of one of our devotees who owns several motels. And the man was surly and disinterested. Now this devotee keeps, the Gideon's Bible is there in the drawer. You pull it open at your motel room, and and it's to their credit. They distribute far many more books than we do, lest we become puffed up. The Gideons are way ahead of us. Every motel in America, you pull open a drawer, there's a Gideon Bible. So this devotee and there's a program, it's called Motel Gita. So this man checks in, not in a good mood. Give me my key, here's my card. And he goes. Turns out, when the man checked out in the morning, he was very apologetic. He was a changed man. He said, I'm really sorry. I gave the desk clerk a hard time. I had a lot of weight on my mind. Actually, he was planning on committing suicide. Evidently, people do this in motels. Believe it or not, they don't want to make a mess at home. It's true. There's a little bit of a real mix of piety and modi ignorance. So a lot of people commit suicide at a motel. So this man had checked in, intent on committing suicide, goodbye cruel world, and, put a towel, kids don't try this at home, put a towel under the door, to seal off the thing, blew out the pilot light in the heater, turned the heater up full blast. So the room's going to fill up with gas. And he thought, I don't want to change my mind, so I better read something. I better distract myself. And this devotee, Gideon Bible is there. It's my motel. Why not put Bhagavad Gita? So he's got Gitas in the drawers of all of his motels. So the man pulls open the Bible, pulls open the drawer, sees Bhagavad Gita and Bible. I mean, I'm not criticizing the Bible, but, guys thinking, been there, done that, didn't do much for me. And so he starts reading the Bhagavad Gita. And by the time he got to the 6th chapter, he thought, hang on a minute, I'm not crazy. This world is crazy. Saved him. We had a devotee who shows, and he changed man, And there's many, many examples of that. So, if we want, instead of the foolish electorate electing a fool as a leader, and it becomes a fool's paradise only, probably called democracy demon crazy, doesn't mean we're communists or we're capitalists or socialists. They're all askew. As soon as you add up 1 + 1 is 3, the whole thing is off kilter. That's the point it's making here. We should not, what is the time? Whoops. We should not be, Prabhupada mentions it here in Bhagavad Gita, that work should be done as sacrifice for Vishnu. One who's got their eyes open. And Prabhupada quotes it in the purport, Eko bahunam yovatadati kaman. I think we mentioned it yesterday. It was yesterday's verse. That nitya nitanam chaitanas chatinanam from Katha Upanishad. But the real knowledge is that we are all dependent on the mercy of the Lord. That this world, when I was going to school, and I'm sure it must be the same thing, we had to learn so many laws. Laws of chemistry. How old are you? Huh? Oh, 12. You look older. I'm sure that by the time, you're in middle school? Not yet. You're in middle school. Are they teaching you science? Are you learning laws? Not yet. Well, you got something to look forward to. And I'm being sarcastic. Heisenberg's gas law, Newton's laws of physics. You got so many, whatever, anyway, there's so many laws. And you got to learn them all. Laws of mathematics. You got geometry yet? Yeah. So many, what is it? Who's Pythagoras' whatever it is, law. What is that? The side of triangle equals this, that? Huh? A hypotenuse, yeah. Oh, jeez. Wait till you get to algebra 2. That'll really bust your brain. So anyway. But my point is, there's so many laws. Now, the laws of gravity, so many things. What is the logical conclusion if there's so many laws? There's a lawmaker. So if everything is going on by laws and they're lawmakers, I'm dependent. So if I'm dependent on the mercy of the Lord, anyone know, other than Dravida Prabhu and Balaram Ji, does anyone know The classic example, Prabhupada gives, if you're walking behind someone and their wallet falls on the ground and they don't know it, and they keep walking. You got the scene in your head? Someone's walking, drops their purse, drops their wallet, and they keep walking. Now there's 3 things you can do. 2 wrong, 1 right. So who can mention one of the wrong things? Yes, young man. Take the money and run. Right? But you're always in anxiety. You hear the police siren, are they coming for me? There's always a tinge of angst and guilt. You know? You're not peaceful with that stolen money. And Prabhupada gives the example, and it mentioned in the purport about Krishna's, in the word for word, that Krishna's the witness. The thing is, everything is witnessed. In the Varata Rupa, it's described that the sun and the moon are the 2 eyes of Krishna. Right? Because with light, then you can see. So the sun and the moon are the 2 eyes of Krishna. Now I gave this example one time at a Sunday school, devotee Sunday school. And, you know, if I close one eye, the other eye is still seeing, right? One eye is still there. So the sun is seeing me in the daytime, and the night is seeing me at night. So Krishna witnesses everything. One kid raised his hand, said, Swami, what about a moonless night? I said, make this kid an attorney. He's immediately found a loophole. Very intelligent young man. But the point is that there's so many witnesses, the stars, the moon, the 10 directions. There's so many witnesses. The Devas witness. Huh? Yeah, Krishna in the heart. So you can't get away from it. Everything is witnessed. Everything we're responsible for. So, okay, accepting that everything we do is witnessed. If you take the wallet and run, you're in anxiety, and there's a karmic reaction, right? Every action, that's the law you're going to learn in physics. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Law of karma. Okay, that's one wrong thing. Take the money and run. What's another wrong thing? Ram. Yeah, you think, well, I don't want to get involved. He'll see me picking up the wallet, think I picked his pocket. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it there and not get involved. All right? Is that the right thing? Okay. Now, what's the right thing to do? Yes, Mukunda. Give it back to the person who owns it. 10 points for that young man. So what is the analogy that Prabhupada was making? The analogy is people are just stealing from Krishna. You know? I was listening to a tape. Prabhupada was talking to a biologist. And Sariputta told me that when Prabhupada would meet biologists, he would often start by saying, poor frogs. You know, because they gotta, you know, they're always doing those, and you know, what do they call it? Yeah, what'd you call it? Dissection. Oh, it's nasty. Poor frogs. So it always reduces their profit. Well, I don't need it. So the man was saying they've created life. And this Stephen Miller up here at UCSD, what he did was he took, they say that UCSD 19, whatever it was, they created life in a test tube. What he actually did, you know, and it proves there's the prebiotic soup, and then there's the electricity, and it went and it created life, and that's everything by chemical evolution has brought us to our current state of human beings walking around and speculating. Of course, where'd the prebiotic soup come from? Where'd the electricity come from? I mean, those are, basic questions, but putting those aside for a minute. But what he actually did was he took some base chemicals and shot electricity through it. And in a certain process, he built amino acids, a base amino acid. Now you've got to take an amino acid and build that into a protein, and from a protein, you've got a whole step, a series of steps that will give you a one-cell amoeba. And a one-cell amoeba is more complicated than New York City. They have no idea. There was what the heck? There was a guy who used to come to the temple here, a professor at UCSD. Oh, just to finish the analogy. Saying they created life by creating, combining by electrical this and that and some process, an amino acid. It's like if I give you a hubcap. I give you a hubcap from a Cadillac. And I say, here's your new car, sir. You accept that? I give you a hubcap? Hey, wait a minute, There's a whole lot more that goes to a car. I give you one nut, one screw, and I say, here's a gas combustion engine. Well, hang on a minute, mate, So there was a professor up here, Ram Ramanathan, and he was a friend of the Amrish and Manju Goel. And he was a top professor in climatology at UCSD. If he'd lived long enough, he would have won the Nobel Peace Prize. He's one of the top guys in the field. And I remember asking Ram, what's the story? Global warming, thumbs up, thumbs down. He said, he said, no question about it happening. No question that it is happening. But he said, we've discovered that there's atmospheric rivers. He said, basically, the earth and the oceans and the climate, the weather, is so interdependent, is so complicated. He said, we don't know the first thing. Now, this is a top professor, UCSD, you can Google it, Ram Ramanathan. His field, he was up there at Scripps, oceanography. He said, we're discovering that just like the body has veins, there's channels of atmospheric, they call them atmospheric rivers. And we're not talking about the Pineapple Express that blows this way from, Hawaii. No, which does. That's a simplistic understanding. But the way the currents flow and the way the airs flow and how it all interrelates, he said, it is so complicated. The weather is accurate 50% of the time. Think about that one. So we are completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord. And therefore the recognition of that. This chapter is called Ideal Householder Life. And ideal householder life means fine. You've got some opulence. But it should be used. We did it. Govardhan and I were traveling. We were in Phoenix. We were in Tucson. And there were so many nights we had home programs. I got a house. What do they say? A man's home is his castle. And you see the sign on the lawn, beware of mad dog with rabies. I saw one the other day that said, forget the dog, worry about the owner. It said protected by Smith & Wesson, which is a gun manufacturer, But if actually, one should use one's house, invite one's friends, and invite the Vaishnavas. There was a fantastic, I remember the Prasadam. There was a fantastic program at your house. And everyone brought some. We used to, at Malathi Devi, they support this temple. I don't want to embarrass them by praise, but they give so much to help this temple. There's so many devotees. So if you're a householder, then you use that to spread the Krishna consciousness movement. You open up your house, you invite people, you give them prasadam, you have a little extra money, and you whatever it may be, but you give something to help Krishna. And that, because the whole world is struggling under karma and sinful reaction. But we need to end. I wanted to tell one Ramanujacharya story, because it's talking about ideal household life. It's consciousness. Prabhupada mentions those who have sufficient knowledge. It's in the purport, it's in the translation, and it's in the purport. So it's an action with wisdom. That's the transformative ingredient, is knowledge. Ramanujacharya, some of his sannyasi and brahmachari disciples were bathing in a river, Kaveri River. It's right there in Sri Rangam. And they got their clothing mixed up. So they were arguing. You've got my dhoti, you've got my kurta. They're supposed to be renounced. And there was a mood in the ashram. They wear saffron cloth, the badge of courage, and these attached lazy householders. They're living by the mercy of the householders, but they're these lazy householders. They're just attached. So Ramanujacharya didn't like that. So Ramanujacharya, they were building a temple. It's a whole story. Sri Rangam, beautiful temple. So he told one of his brahmachari, leader of this kerfuffle over the dhotis and kurtas, he said, you go see my disciple, and you go at night, and his wife is sleeping, and steal her gold earrings. And then we can sell them and we'll use it for the temple. So he did it. He went there at night, waited if they were, and then he told them, but after you steal the gold earrings, you wait outside the window and hear their conversation. You hear their conversation. Okay, so he goes, sneaks into the room, and their savings, it's a very nice system. It gives security to the wife. They have some gold bangles that if all goes to hell in a handbasket and I lose my husband or my family, at least I got some gold bangles I can live on. Because now you can't even, anyway, that's another story. Glass and plastic. So there's a husband and wife are sleeping. The sannyasi or brahmacharya, under the order of his guru, sneaks in and steals one of the gold earrings. And the wife rolls over. So the guy freaks, it startles him, and he runs out and climbs out the window. But under the order of his guru, he waits to hear. Well, he told me to wait and hear what they're talking about. And the wife was feigning that she was asleep. The husband was pretending to sleep. They heard him coming in. And they let him take one. And the reason she rolled over and startled him, she wanted to give him access to the second earring. And they were discussing, the temple must be in such a tight shape. The brahmacharis have to go out to steal. And the husband says, well, why did you scare him off? Oh, no, I didn't mean to scare him off. I rolled over so I could take my second earring. And so the husband and wife were not talking about the loss of the gold earring and the temple must be in such need. How can what do we do? Okay, we'll just sell them and give them the money. They had a whole debate. So you've got the brahmacharis and sannyasis arguing over, who's got whose dhoti, value of, I don't know what dhoti costs, $5? If you get a stripe, $7, So this is ideal household life. Not that we should, but how to recognize there's basic laws. To recognize that I'm dependent. It is not going on by my strength. I'm a dependent living entity. Time is coming. I'm going to have to give everything up. I'm dependent on the mercy of the Lord. I can't maintain anything. The bee works very hard and makes what? Honey. But who gets to enjoy the honey? The beekeeper comes, smokes them out, and takes the honey and enjoys. Time comes and takes all things. So I'm dependent. I'm subordinate to time. Time will take all things. Everything I do is witnessed. So someone who understands this, the conclusion, you put these factors together, let me use everything that I can. I maintain myself. Ishopanishad says it perfectly, that you take your quota and you leave aside everything else, knowing to whom it belongs. Ishopanishad. Who's the supreme controller? Krishna. So take what you need, no problem. Maintain yourself. And the rest you use in Krishna's service. So we can end there just a little gloss on the ideal household life. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Sorry we went over.